I already did. Welcome. We have more technical difficulties again, but that's okay. We're here. I have a lot to say. We have a fun show. As always, if you're here, the most important thing is to like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell, all of that good stuff. It would make me very, very happy. Very happy. And then, what's up? How was playoff things?
I mean, that first game definitely left a little bit to be desired, but I think the second game somewhat made up for it. A lot more controversy and a little bit more scoring by both teams as opposed to just one.
See, this is the issue being in the UK, is that I stayed up and watched the first game and then had to go to bed.
Yeah, I thought the second one was pretty fun. Tie game with 3 minutes left and came down to a last-second field goal. Two good teams, so can't complain about that.
Now, did it come down to a last-second field goal or a last-second call by the referees?
Hey,
if you don't want,
you're gonna get the show. You're gonna get the show canceled.
If you don't want it called, then don't put two.
Only it doesn't matter. Only I can cancel this show, which I might do at any time. If people don't watch the show, it'll be canceled. That's always what I say. So that's why it's important to like the video. You must like the video and leave comments. Otherwise, the show, it could do, I don't know. I mean, a week is a long time. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen between this week and next week? We never know. It's always what I say. The walls of this maze hold many mysteries. It's always very important to remember that. But anyway, let's see here. What else was on my list? We can talk about Aaron Rodgers. That's on my list. There was a whole video. It was 20 minutes long. Very long of me not liking Aaron Rodgers. Why? What is there to like? He can take his ayahuasca and his immunization elsewhere.
Well, I think the issue is he hasn't been doing the ayahuasca. He took it before his MVP seasons, and
he needed to do more of that. What? Is there like some story you'd like to share? It sounded like there was a story you wanted to share. That's just what it sounded like.
No, it's just
no.
I think it seemed like the public kind of got the idea that he took that, and that's kind of like did something to his play maybe the last few years. But the story was, he took it before his MVP seasons, and the most we've heard, he hasn't been taking it the last year or two, and look what it's done.
Yeah. Let's
see. Moral of the story: do drugs, kids.
Now wait a minute. It's important for me now. Let's go back there. It's important for me to note that this show does not endorse doing any drugs of any kind. It's totally don't endorse that. It's totally not something that I approve of. I couldn't can't even say that with a straight face. Totally disapprove of it. Totally disapprove.
Fully said in jest. Fully said.
Yeah, totally disapprove. Okay. So let's see. So there was some news. And then, of course, we can talk about the playoff games, and then there are other things. So Nathaniel Hackett, failure Hackett, was hired as the Jets offensive coordinator. Total failure. But he was hired as an offensive coordinator. So I don't think that was such a good move. But, Rich, aren't you a Jets fan?
I am, for my sins.
I'm so sorry. Are you happy that failure Hackett was hired as the offensive coordinator? Are you happy about that?
Look, maybe I'm besmirching your last comment, but look, if it brings Rodgers and we get a competent quarterback, I'm always happy.
Well, I mean, how did that work out for Denver? They thought it was going to bring Rodgers, then it didn't bring Rodgers. And then
but let's be honest. If you're a Broncos fan, at least you've had John Elway, Peyton Manning. You've had some competence. I've been a Jets fan for 25 years. The highlights of quarterback play I had was one season of Brett Favre where he failed to get us to the playoffs, and Chad Pennington before his shoulder fell off.
What about Vinny Testaverde? Oh, that's before you.
Yeah, that was my first 2 years. I'm not calling them a highlight.
Yeah. But yeah, Nathaniel Hackett is a terrible coordinator. I mean, he's terrible at everything, really. I mean, he is a big failure. I had some people say that he was so good. He did a great job in that 1 year in Jacksonville. And he did do a good job in 2017. But they fail to mention that he was the quarterback's coach who developed Blake Bortles. That was his responsibility. Total failure. And then in 2018, he was unceremoniously fired by the Jaguars for leading one of the worst offenses in the entire league. They also fail to remember that he was the offense coordinator of Buffalo for 2 years. He did a terrible job. He was terrible. So it was really bad. And then it was bad in 2016, bad and fired in 2018. So it was really actually in 2015 as a quarterback's coach was also not so good. So a lot of failure and one good year. And now 2022 was another failure. So he was good when he was with Aaron Rodgers, but he didn't really do anything. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see if he can, he'll probably ruin everything on the Jets, but that's fine. It was pretty bad before. So we'll have to see. Let's see. What's next? Panthers hire failure Reich. Another failure. So they're putting on a retread of failure. I don't think that's so good. I don't know why they did that. I mean, he did a very poor job as the coach of the Colts. Very, very poor job. I mean, he is, they're going to entrust Reich to potentially be a part of bringing in the next quarterback. I wouldn't trust Reich with that. He was responsible for bringing in Matt Ryan, totally responsible for that. And that didn't work out. Totally responsible from the prayer circle, the prayer breakfast, responsible for Carson Wentz, a total failure. And then, there were other problems. I mean, with Phillip Rivers, it was okay. I mean, it was honestly better than the other two. But he was responsible for that, another Band-Aid that didn't solve anything. So he's totally responsible for all of those failures. And now he's going to be responsible for bringing in a quarterback to the Panthers. I don't think that's going to be so good. So we'll have to see. But I'm not really excited about that.
Well, as a Panthers fan, I'm hoping that he's done with the Band-Aid route. I hope
he's
learned his lesson.
So I'm glad that you're here then. That's perfect timing. The first news item was a Jets thing and then a Panthers one. So the Panthers have the 9th overall pick in this year's draft, and there are other possibilities of how they might acquire a quarterback. Let's say you were the general manager of the Panthers. What would you do if you were the general manager? How about that? Let's see.
Well, I will say I'm really tired of the Band-Aid thing because not only have the Colts been doing that, but the Panthers have been doing that. Ever since Cam, hurt his shoulder, it's been Teddy Bridgewater and let's try to retread Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and everybody under the sun. I mean, Kyle Allen, it's been a train wreck. And so I'm not looking for us to go get a Jimmy Garoppolo or some other retread Band-Aid. I would like for us to take a stab at figuring it out through the draft. I mean, that was the draft is how we got Cam Newton in the first place. It doesn't always work out. Before Cam Newton, we drafted Jimmy Clausen. But you got to try something, right? So I would like to take a quarterback at 9 or even potentially trade up for one. Anybody but Will Levis.
Well, I think you're going to get Will Levis.
That's what I'm afraid of. But
well, I think so because Frank Reich, it sounds very possible because Frank Reich has a history of poor judgment. And of course, we know what he would do. He's going to bring in a quarterback who likes to put mayonnaise in his coffee. That's what is going to happen. We know it, but it's true. There's a video you can clearly see. He's putting the mayonnaise. Will Levis likes mayonnaise in his coffee. I can't have that.
Yeah, he's also a terrible quarterback. So there's that.
Well, these are less important. That's a good point. But the fact that he puts mayonnaise in his coffee, I think, is a big problem. I mean, we can't have that. I mean, that just shows poor judgment.
Pretty gross.
Or it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Well, I don't get Reich's judgment. He spent the last, 4 years struggling because he's not got a quarterback. And he then goes to a job where he doesn't have a quarterback. It's just glutton for punishment. That's not the
smartest thing.
I know. But, he made his name off of, he's worked with Phillip Rivers, Peyton Manning, and Andrew Luck. That's where he got his name, basically. And so
I don't get why he doesn't, I get there's only 32 head coaching jobs. If you get offered one, it's hard to say no. But just take a year out. you're going to become more.
If he were younger, I'd agree with you. But he's 61. This is it. He's not going to get another chance.
But if this is your last chance, do you want this to go out?
My guess is that this was it. My guess is this was it. He wasn't going to be in line for another head coaching job this year. At 61, if you take a year off, you're 62. After a year off, our teams, you got to kind of strike while the iron is hot.
Hey,
At
Pete
62,
Carroll's
you're going to get a job.
Still young.
Yeah,
it's not a good position to find
ourselves. Yeah, but he's got a quarterback like Gino.
Well, he might not. Gino's free agent. Who knows?
Pete Carroll, though, has also been entrenched in that job. I don't think if Pete Carroll got fired, he would ever get another job. I think this is it. He's not going to get another job. He's an old man.
There's an owner out there. Same with Bill Belichick. If either of them got fired, there'd be an owner out there that would sign him up immediately.
Well, Bill Belichick is not getting fired.
Yeah, but if they both hit the open market, they'd both have a job within 24 hours.
Think so?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm with Rich on that one.
Pete Carroll's 71.
Doesn't matter.
He's got enough track record of success. I think somebody would hire him.
Mm-hmm.
People forget I think he's had one losing season since he's been there, and that losing season, I think they made the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. It's just you don't see coach. I mean, Pete Carroll's the oldest coach in the NFL. Like, you don't really. I mean, it's rare you see a coach in their 70s at all. Rare, very rare. I mean, it's amazing what he's doing. Honestly, it's amazing what he did. But I don't know if a team is going to hire a coach in the 70s to start over with a new team. That just seems kind of. No one's ever done it. No one's ever done it. No one's ever done that before. So he would be the first ever to do that. So it would be interesting. But I don't see that as very.
He may not even want that. I mean, he may.
No, well, I think that's beside the point. I agree with you. I think it's
maybe that's why it's never happened. Is because if you get fired at 71.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 70 something, don't you want to relax? I mean.
Yeah, but Pete Carroll's not a normal 70-year-old, is he? Let's be honest.
Well, he's not normal in a lot of ways.
He's on something that I would like to be on. Let's put it that way.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
He has got more energy than me, and he's 4 years older than me. So
well, I don't have any energy. I mean, we know that I'm the old man of all of this stuff. But let's see what's next. Rams hire Mike LaFleur as offensive coordinator. Well, it's interesting. I don't know why they did that.
It's just Sean McVay's buddy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is.
Sean McVay calls plays anyway, right? So
yeah.
I mean,
next, Sean Payton looks like he might not get a head coaching job.
Wait, apparently the Saints are wanting 2 firsts. I can't see any team that needs a head coach willing to pay 2 firsts plus 25 million.
Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Nobody's going.
I mean, he's a fine head coach, but he went to one Super Bowl in 20 years with Drew Brees, so it's not like I don't know. I wouldn't give up 2 firsts for him. Hire.
I wouldn't give up anything for him. So I don't. Yeah, I'm all out on
him. Even 1 first seems like.
Well, no, I mean, actually, I have many complaints about him. I think he was very overrated. I think there was a long period of time where he did a very poor job. Actually, down the stretch, it was not good. It was really not good. And if he had any say in some of the general manager decisions that the Saints made, that's why they're in trouble today. I mean, that's why he left. He left
he quit on
because he put them in a shitty, assuming he was partially responsible for that, which I think he was, given the degree of control he wants over player personnel in his next job. I think it's safe to assume he was partially responsible for the Saints personnel decisions, and he buried them in a deep cap hole. A nightmare roster that they're going to take a long time to get out of. And they tried to do other things to get out of it. And they put themselves in deeper of a hole by trying to undo all the fuck ups that he made over the last, who knows how many years. But he did a very poor job down the stretch. It really wasn't so good. He did well earlier, but recently it wasn't so good. So I'm not paying him.
He's older.
First. He's not that old. I'm actually was surprised.
But also
I thought he was in his 60s.
I just think if a team gives up significant draft capital to trade for him, and then they also on top of it have to give a really mega long-term contract,
nobody's doing that. Nobody's
and give him player personnel control. If it doesn't work out, that sets you back a decade. I mean,
nobody's doing that.
That's why he's going back to TV.
Two things. First of all, there's only 18 months left on his contract with the Saints. So there's probably a chance that this time next year, the Saints will accept, I know, like a second, maybe a third, something like that.
Yeah.
And also, Kellen Moore's gone. Mike McCarthy's now calling plays, so we can report that Mike McCarthy's getting fired by the Cowboys next year. So
I love how they thought that was the solution. The way to fix it was to make Mike McCarthy call the plays. That was the solution.
It's because all Jerry cares about is Zeke, and Kellen Moore wanted to get rid of Zeke. So Mike McCarthy said, "I'll call plays. We'll keep Zeke." And Jerry's gone, "Yeah, here you go. You can have what you want."
I can't with that, but whatever. I mean, so Kellen Moore is gone, and he was hired like 20 hours later by the Chargers. That's interesting. And Justin Herbert had his surgery. He should be ready in a couple of months. I'm not really worried about that, but
it makes me wonder how long he was playing with the bad shoulder.
The whole year, or from whenever it happened. I mean, originally that was early.
It was ribs and shoulder. I think it was all combined in one, wasn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think of Kellen Moore? I think that's more relevant than the injury, because I don't think he's still going to be. He's not going to still have this injury in 8 months. So
I think it's anything that wasn't Lombardi was a big push, and I think can we get Justin Herbert's ADOT above 8? Like maybe push the ball down the field a little bit. It might help.
Yeah, I don't know why they were interested in Joe Lombardi as offensive coordinator. He really did a poor job. He was very, very bad in his time.
They should have been a lot better. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, he was really bad. I mean, he was terrible in his 2 years in Detroit. He really did a very poor job as offensive coordinator. So I don't know. I don't think he should have gotten another offensive coordinator job. I don't really know what Brandon Staley was thinking. But, I don't know why Brandon Staley still has a job. I don't know why he still has a job. He's totally incompetent.
I can tell you why Staley's got a job, because the Chargers are a cheap organization.
Oh, that's exactly why. But, well, then they should find owners who have more money. That's what they should do. They should find owners who have more money, because Brandon Staley is so bad. I mean, I don't think you're going to be able to win anything with him as a head coach. He's just so bad. He doesn't understand basic concepts of being a head coach. He really isn't so good. So it's really bad.
They blew in the playoffs. It's just...
I mean, I won't do the 8-minute rant over again. But, it's always the same thing. The defense was bad. Why didn't he do something about it? The clock management last year was a big problem this year. Why didn't he do something about it? There were other things. I mean, there was personnel issues. We knew about them. He knew about them. He didn't do anything about it. And then there were other things like discipline. Player discipline was a problem last year. And then this year, more penalties. He didn't do anything about it. So he shouldn't still have a job. But he does, because the Chargers can't afford to fire him. That's really what it is. And we can, luckily on here, I can say the quiet part out loud. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. This is what's nice about not being the official NFL media. I don't give a fuck if Brandon Staley doesn't like me. Like, he's not watching this show. And even if he were, he certainly wouldn't watch it after my 8-minute segment on him a couple of weeks ago, where I detailed all of his failures, of which there are so many that the segment could have been 8 hours. But that's, minor details. So before we get into the running backs, let's go into the games, the playoff games from this weekend. Let's start with the first game first, I suppose. The 49ers and the Eagles. That game kind of got off to a, it just never got started. Yeah, I mean, It is what it is, right? I mean, quarterback got injured in 7 minutes in, and then that was it.
Yeah. And they're, Fred Warner too, right? I mean, I don't recall if he came back, but he went out on the first defensive series, and
he came back the next series in.
Yeah.
But it just shows that you can't function without a competent quarterback when it comes to the playoffs. And Johnson's not getting it done, but when he then got concussed, like, what can you do? It's just it's a shame they didn't have a mercy rule, and the 49ers could have just gone home and saved us all a load of time in the second half.
I think the reality is, from the 49ers, for actual fantasy takeaways from this game, you can toss most of the game because there's no Josh Johnson quarterback playing anytime soon. So the reality is, though, that I think moving forward, Christian McCaffrey is going to be back. Everyone's going to be back. I mean, they're all there. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's under a long contract. They started winning when they got him, so he's not going anywhere. George Kittle is under a long-term contract. He's not going anywhere. They just extended Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk, I think, played well enough that they're going to pick up his 5th-year option. And they don't have to make a decision on him. They might. I mean, I don't think he's going to get extended, but I also don't think he's going to get traded away.
They don't need to rush it because all the guarantees of Deebo's deal are out by the time they'd have to extend Ayuk. So they're never going to have to pay both of them.
Well, they do have to decide. Well, no, they will. They're going to have to pay Ayuk's 5th-year option in 2024 at the same time.
Yeah,
they will
but
have to do that.
That's not big money, is
it's
it?
Not
that's
that bad.
What,
yeah, it's not that bad. It's
16 million,
15, 16 million. It's not cheap, but it's not awful. It's not awful. But
He's
I do
good
think they
enough
pick it up. I think they pick it up. I mean, in today's market, 15, 16 million for a receiver who can play as a, I don't think Ayuk can be a 1, but I think he's better than almost.
I think he's top 15 NFL receiver.
Top 15?
Yeah.
I think that's stretching it.
I was actually pretty surprised. 15? I was scrolling through Sleeper the other day, looking at like points per game, and he was wide receiver 15.
Mm-hmm. I'm not talking fantasy. I mean pure NFL. I think he's top 15.
I think he's a better NFL player than a fantasy player.
Yeah.
He's never going to be a consistent top 15 fantasy player in this offense because he requires people to get hurt.
Yeah.
This offense
his rookie year when Deebo wasn't playing and Kittle was hurt and
exactly.
You know, he was
That's when he was
wide
good,
receiver 1, but that hasn't happened for him.
The problem in this offense is that you usually say, oh, 2 mouths to feed, good players eat, but it doesn't actually work that way in this offense because the difference in quality between Ayuk, Deebo, and Kittle is almost nothing. They're all good. They're all very good, but nobody has that leg up over the other. So because nobody has that leg up, they all produce, but it's just with Christian McCaffrey there too, it just isn't possible. They just cannot all produce as they would on another team. If they had Patrick Mahomes, maybe, but they don't. So it's just not possible. The target pie is just too small. And they also run the ball too well to want to do that. So unfortunately, someone, and oftentimes 2 of them, are left out in the cold to some degree in a game. So it's hard. Like, they're all good, but would someone benefit from a change of scenery? Probably.
They're also one of the slowest teams in terms of
that's another thing.
Pace.
They're slow.
They're 24th in plays per game last year. Like there's not as many plays to go around.
And with Trey Lance, it would be even worse. It'd be even worse, not better. It'd be even worse because you're taking, 20% of the offensive plays and devoting them to quarterback runs, which is even worse, or something like that. It would be bad.
I hope everybody got out from under their Deebo shares last offseason. I mean, was there a more obvious sell than,
Michael Thomas 2 years ago?
Well, coming off of a wide receiver 2 season, he was in most people's like Dynasty top 12 last offseason. And all the contract stuff and him saying, I don't want to be given carries and be played as a running back anymore, which was a huge part of his value. And then Trey Lance was coming in. There was just like so many things that screamed like sell Deebo.
Also, just historically efficient in terms of you look at his, his conversion rates of basically air yards to receiving yards was obscene, ridiculous. Was it 6.2 ADOT this year? Like how
so Deebo's older than people think.
Yeah, he's 28 now?
He's 27 now. He just turned 27 a couple weeks ago.
So yeah, and he was a low-end wide receiver 2 this year, and I don't really see a significant boost coming next year. So if you paid the prices that he was demanding last offseason, you're in a world of hurt. From a Dynasty.
Yeah, in Dynasty, without any rookies included, I have Deebo at wide receiver 24 and Brandon Ayuk at wide receiver 27. The thing for me, I am worried about, I don't know. I like Deebo better. I think Deebo's better player. But he wasn't used the way that I wanted to. I don't know. He wasn't really used the way I wanted to see. But we'll have to see.
Yeah,
I don't really like either of them.
He was a big disappointment this year for sure. Even, he missed a couple of games, but even if you look at it on a per game basis, he was wide receiver 24.
His January ADP, like people are still, I think, don't understand what Debo really was because even his January DLF ADP was wide receiver 16. Like, that's crazy. That's way too high. I think wide receiver 24 is about right. Of course, I think it's right. That's why I ranked him. So of course I like it. But I do think realistically that's probably about right.
I mean, does he have any elite traits other than his after the catch ability?
No, but that can take you a long way.
And I'd say his number one elite trait is the offensive play caller.
I mean, sure, but he's going to be in that offense. That's the thing. I mean, it is nice that the quarterback didn't seem to. It wasn't because. Imagine if they actually got a better quarterback. They're not going to, but imagine if they did. You know. But is there anything else to say about the 49ers? I mean, Elijah Mitchell didn't play.
Are we going to talk about the quarterback situation? Or?
Oh, yeah. But we will talk about it. But Chris McCaffrey was good. Elijah Mitchell didn't play. I think it's telling that neither Tyrion Davis-Price nor Jordan Mason saw any playing time at all. None. Nothing. I mean, or Tevin Coleman was out there. He didn't record any statistics, but I know he was there.
It's all right. I'm sure the 49ers will draft day 2, early day 3 running back, and everyone will
I don't think so this
time.
time.
We'll all get excited.
I don't think so this time.
They'll get overdrafted in rookie drafts, and
I think they're good. Nothing. I think they're good at running back. To be honest, I really don't think they will. I think they're good.
I agree. I'm just saying because it's what are we now? Is it 3-4 years on the trot? They've spent ridiculous draft capital on a running back.
I think that they, are going to go forward with their running back room, and they're going to try to develop either Tyrion Davis-Price or Jordan Mason into their RB3. I mean, it's clear that they actually trust Elijah Mitchell to take carries when he's playing. If he's not playing, Christian McCaffrey gets everything because they don't trust Tyrion Davis-Price or Jordan Mason to do anything.
Mm-hmm. And like clockwork, if one of those guys gets hurt, everyone's going to rush to spend all their fab on Jordan Mason and Tyrion Davis-Price. And it's like, they're not going to do anything. They're not.
Yeah. If it's basically a 2-back system where if one of the two goes down, the other one gets everything. If they have to both get hurt for the 49ers to turn elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Tyrion Davis-Price was a total bust. I mean, it's Trey Sermon levels of bust. I mean, it was the same thing. Drafted in the 3rd round, did nothing at all. Nothing.
Hey, Trey Sermon's about to go to a Super Bowl.
That's true. That's true. He hasn't been active all year, I don't think.
Yeah, he still gets a ring.
I'll take it. Right? I'll take it.
I mean, the Davis-Price thing, I mean, like those of us that scout pretty heavily for rookie drafts and even Devy guys, he was nowhere on the radar. And you're like looking for all the, where's Spiller, where's Zamir White, where's all these guys that we've been talking about. And he gets drafted before all those guys on day 2. It just was like baffling. Like, where did that come from? I didn't even know if he was going to get drafted.
Shanahan's done it almost every year. Who was the guy in his first year? I want to say Joe Williams, was it?
Oh, Williams.
That he pounded the table before they traded up. He
got released before the season started.
Yeah, they never saw the field. Like, it feels like Shanahan does it every year.
Elijah Mitchell and Matt Breida, the UDFA, were the ones who stuck.
And Jeff Wilson, another UDFA.
Yeah, Jeff Wilson. He kept going in and out.
Yeah,
Raheem Mostert was a signing from elsewhere. But yeah, let's see. Let's go through some of these questions. So if you talk about some of these running backs, I'd appreciate it. Whoa, okay. There's a lot. We will talk about some of these. We will talk about some of them. We'll have to see. I'm looking forward to how do I make it so that this doesn't like what this is this no, that's even worse. All right, we'll figure it out. I don't know why this is covering Rich's head so much. Yeah. Oh, much better. Much better. Side note. Rich has his own YouTube. Oh, here, we'll go to that next, and then we can go back to Jesse's question. Tell the people about your YouTube.
Yeah, so we launched 2 weeks ago, the Fantasy Sanctuary, or I think it's FF Sanctuary on Twitter and YouTube. So me and Tom Strachan, who's another UK content creator that writes for Football Outsiders, Fantasy Pros. He's also a professional video editor, so makes life a little bit easier when it comes to cutting up videos and things. So yeah, just try and do something a bit different at the moment, very video focused, trying to be more kind of graphics and video led. Got some exciting, hopefully new things coming in the next couple of weeks that we're going to be dropping.
Do you see that YouTube is hard?
It's mind blowing. It's
how hard it is.
I think what I struggle with, we kind of got our heads around.
Here's the link, by the way.
Thank you very much. We've kind of got our head around the video side of things and can kind of see, the trajectory of how videos take off. But the shorts thing is just wild. Like we had a video today that we released in the shorts feed a week ago that had gained like 50 views through a week. And then randomly it just got 500 views.
That happens all the time. Happens all the time.
But there seems no logic to it. Like it suddenly.
That's why I put so much stuff out there, because sometimes it hits randomly, like weeks later.
It's so weird. Like the longer video stuff I get, because you can look at SEO and all that kind of stuff, and it makes sense when it hits and what traction and that kind of stuff. But the short stuff is just completely random.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Matt, what about your YouTube? You have YouTube too.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for about 1.5 years now. Started last October of 21, and I do film breakdowns. So if you've watched any of like Chris Harris or Brett Coleman or some of those guys, it's similar type of a feel. I want to break down strengths and weaknesses and actually look at the plays and not just be a talking head on a screen.
What's your YouTube called?
It is at Devi2 Dynasty FR, same as my Twitter handle, Devi2 Dynasty Film Room.
Yeah.
Would love for you guys to check it out. I love doing it. Tyler's right. It is hard to gain a following and grow and all that.
You have no idea, man.
But it's fun to make the videos and to constantly try to improve, with my video editing and my lighting and just all the things to just try to make efficient cuts to get in and out so that you're not watching for an hour to get a video breakdown. I try to make all my videos 10 minutes or less. And right now, as soon as my laptop gets out of the shop, I'm going to be hopping on the rookie grind. So for the next couple of months, it's going to be rookie breakdown, strengths, weaknesses, where I'd take them in a rookie draft, all that kind of stuff. So
if you're looking to have someone not as smart about rookies as you join you to make you sound really smart, I will volunteer.
Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate that.
People always demand. I don't get it. I've never gotten it. Why people want so much rookie content from me? I don't watch college football. I don't watch tape. I don't do analytics. Why me? I don't know. People want it from me though. I don't get it. Every year, too. Every year. I don't know.
That's funny.
People just think that like it's because I'm there during the the season, start sit stuff. So they think I know everything. But
we can help each other out because you're a lot better at that in-season stuff than I am, and rookies are probably my specialty. So
I don't know if I'm better. I just answer more.
Well,
I don't know if I'm better. I don't. But I count every time I'm asked Christian McCaffrey versus Tevin Coleman or something stupid as a win. So I get like 80% of the start sit questions I'm asked right, because I make sure to answer all the easy ones. So I can pad my Tyler. You got it right.
Like LeBron padding stats.
I can be. All right. How these rookies shake up the RB landscape. Well, that's an interesting point. Is that going to happen?
I don't think there's ever going to be a class like 2017.
No, there's never going to be a class like 2017. I think we can say that.
I think there's potential. I think that Bijan's incredible, and we can talk about that till the cows come home. I think for me, I don't know if you guys agree, but every other prospect has got some sort of flaw. How that translates to the NFL is going to be really interesting. But I don't think there's any prospect outside Bijan that I'd say I'd feel comfortable being in probably my top 12 at the moment.
Top 12 what?
dynasty running backs. And I'm normally a guy that's, all in on rookies in terms of running back value, but I think it's to me, I'm a lot lower on.
I mean,
Gibbs,
looking at
Evans,
the dynasty
Tucker.
running back landscape, I imagine Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be in my dynasty top 12 because the dynasty top 12 is brutal. I can't imagine that he's not.
I think
I've got him.
This class, the closer that we've gotten to the draft, I don't know if it's prospect fatigue or if, people were so overhyped on him to begin with that now they're starting to be a little bit more realistic about it. Because, guys like Sean Tucker and Zach Evans and Tank Bigsby that people have been excited about for years, now it's almost time to actually draft them. And the cool thing to do is to crap all over those guys. So,
well, you have the people like me who don't watch college football seeing that Sean Tucker is projected to go in the third round at best, or, and coming in and crapping on him. That's what you have. I mean, that's what's going on. Someone who didn't play Debbie, who doesn't know better, who's now coming in, seeing, as people say, he should be ranked here, but it doesn't look like he's going to be drafted high enough to go there. And then I don't want him. So that's what's happening. That's the reality. But, I almost think that sometimes Debbie people get in their own way. They stick to those evals. And I don't care. If you're drafted in the 4th round, I don't care. I don't care what the eval was.
I'm fully with you on that. I mean, last year when Spiller was day 3, it was all right, I'm not.
He's dead to me. Yeah, he was dead to me.
But I do think, it'll be interesting. Spiller was a plotter, and he tested athletically really, really bad, which was part of why he didn't get the draft capital. I think there are certain guys in this class that are going to rise with the combine because a lot of these running backs in this class are really, really athletic. Sean Tucker is one of those. I think Sean Tucker his stock is going to go up fast at the combine.
It had better.
Are we not double counting that though? Because we know he's athletic, so he's expected to perform well at the combine. So when he does perform at the combine, we're I can never get my head around that. People are like, oh look, he's tested really well. It's like, okay, but we knew he was athletic. We knew he was going to test well.
It's not that. It's actually about the narrative coming out of the combine. It's not about what he tests. If the narrative out of the combine is often actually, this is so stupid, but this is the reality, it pushes his NFL draft stock. And that's what I'm counting, not the combine numbers themselves. If I feel that the buzz around the combine is actually going to make, let's say, what was the example used? Sean Tucker in this case, is going to make him get late round 2, early round 3 draft capital, then I'll count it. If I feel like it didn't make a difference, then I won't count it.
Yeah,
so I'm not counting the combine numbers themselves.
Sean Tucker is one of those guys that for me as a Debbie person, I felt like I was early on last year when everybody was still clinging to the Zach Evans and the Tank Bigsby because they were 5-star recruits or whatever. Yeah. And Sean Tucker was this 3-star track kid that came out of nowhere and played at Syracuse. And so I fell in love with his tape, with his explosiveness and
where do you have him?
Ability, and he's my RB3 behind Gibbs and Bijan.
Yeah, I have him at 7. So
like you said, that changes if the draft capital's not there. He's one that it'll hurt my heart if he doesn't get the draft capital because I really like him. But
I think you got to prepare. I think you got to prepare for your heart to be really badly hurt because I really don't think it's coming. Nothing I've seen. I haven't seen him go the earliest I think I saw him go was pick 80 or 90. That was best case. Most of the time it was day 3.
Yeah, I'm just hoping the combine changes.
Until I see something different.
I mean, he is a track guy. So, I mean, I think he's going to really blaze at the combine. And I hope that
he has to.
Gets him more on the NFL radar. I think it's hurt him that he played at Syracuse and he never transferred out and whatever. But I really like his tape. I think, he's got the size, the power and speed combo and the receiving. He's got 3-down upside if he gets the draft capital. And he handled that bell cow workload in college and thrived in it. So we'll see. I mean,
I'm really hoping.
I'm with you though. If it's day 3 capital, it's going to be really hard to take him any higher than the late 2nd round of a rookie draft. So,
it's even worse than that too. Because as a running back, if you get day 3 capital, there's always going to be a question. Will you be replaced next year? Well, there could be another running back. So your dynasty value is permanently. I mean, how many years does it take for a running back to shake that?
I mean, it takes getting a big contract. Like,
pretty much, yeah.
Like Aaron Jones, we don't think that about him anymore because he's got the long term.
Because it's way too long.
But, yeah. Like, I mean, as soon as Aaron Jones got a long term contract extension, you're not worried about him getting replaced because now the team's invested in him. Day 3 capital on a rookie contract, there's no investment. So that's how long it takes. I mean, a guy like Dameon Pierce or Khalil Herbert or Ramondre, like until they get a long-term contract, people are always going to have that in the back of their minds.
Yeah. It usually takes, for some people after 2 years, you can start to see it. Like, I don't think anyone's saying at this point that Ramondre Stevenson is going to be supplanted. Complimented is different, but supplanted, I don't think people are really saying that. You know, Aaron Jones, after his 2018, I feel like people had gotten comfortable with the idea that Aaron Jones was the starter, but it's never 1 year. It's always at least 2.
Yeah,
you need to have 2 good years of play as a later pick and then hold the job into year 3. Then maybe after 2 years of play and holding job into year 3, then maybe your people are comfortable with you. That's the earliest, I think. It requires that amount to overcome later draft at a minimum.
I mean, you have to do that because, like,
absolutely.
If you don't, then you end up like, oh man, I traded my first round pick this offseason for Elijah Mitchell, and then they traded for McCaffrey, or I traded my first round pick for Michael Carter, and then they drafted Breece Hall. Like, you have to.
I think Ramondre especially is such an interesting name for like our discussion today, and obviously, like we're talking dynasty running back trade targets, sells. Like I feel like it's so completely divided and split, where half the people kind of think, well, it's a Patriots running back. Look at their team. He's gonna be in a committee where he's not really taking more than probably 55%, 60% of the work there. But then some people are on the complete flip side where they're like, look, he's been really good for 2 years now. He just put up an RB1 season. Like, it looks like he's the guy. And it's like, so I think that's a name where regardless of which way you're really looking to go, like you have to kind of shop in whatever way. Because if you have a manager that thinks, oh, they're going to be, completely splitting that work next year, regardless of how good he's been, like go get him for a little cheap. But if you got, if you have him on your team and a manager thinks, oh, he's a rock solid RB1 now, it's like, okay, see what you can get for him then. Cause that's, you might believe that. And he, by all means, he looks great. And, I don't think he should be splitting too much work, but that's just kind of the philosophy that the team has always kind of had. So I think that especially, I think is a very interesting name. And was like,
that's a great point. And you're right. It's going to be different in every single league, like what people will give for him. So.
Oh, yeah. I am kind of sad, low key. Like, this has been kind of a fun season, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah, the playoffs haven't been as exciting as last year's were, but the season overall has been a fun one.
I don't think the playoffs have been bad.
No, I guess everybody's got like that Chiefs-Bills game in their mind from last year, and they've been waiting for one of these like matchups, like when you see Bengals Chiefs or Bengals Bills, like everybody's waiting for one of these like epic games, and it hasn't really materialized yet, but they haven't been terrible. They just haven't been like classics,
Yeah. No, he didn't.
Until he and every other Chiefs wide receiver got hurt.
He got hurt in the third quarter. What's the excuse for the poor play in quarters 1 and 2? I mean, he's been terrible for like 7 weeks. I used to think that Juju was going to be back. I don't anymore. I mean, they've totally phased him out of the offense. I really don't know what the Chiefs are going to do because it's very interesting. They're in the Super Bowl. Obviously, things have gone well. Travis Kelce is there. Whatever it is, Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore are going to be there. Everyone else, I mean, Mecole Hardman and Juju are free agents. MVS is, he has a bunch of money left on his contract. He's not worth it. He was pretty good last night.
I was going to say he played well last night. That's for sure.
I was surprised. I mean, they wouldn't have won that game without him last night. He looked great.
Made some
good
plays.
Which I've almost never said about MVS.
I don't know though. Like, are they gonna keep him or like they have to
under contract?
Well, no, they have to decide very quickly on MVS because the rest of his 2023 money is guaranteed on March 17th. So he's either going to be released in the first 2 days of the league year or he's still going to be there. And you're going to know very fast. But they have to decide on him before the draft. But they could sign someone in the first couple of days of free agency and then replace him if they want to do that. They have that option.
Are they getting someone better for $7 million?
No, it would cost more, but they could get someone better overall.
Where are they at cap-wise, though?
They're going to have to choose. I mean, the one thing that I think is pretty clear is Kadarius Toney's going to be there. Sky Moore's going to be there. I think they're either going to re-sign Juju or let MVS's guaranteed money vest and keep him. I don't think they're going to re-sign Juju and keep MVS because I think it's clear that this receiving core is not good enough. They need to add yet another player. So they're not going to be able to pay Juju's contract, have $6.44 million more for MVS, and then also outlay more money to another wide receiver. So it's going to be an either or.
They've got a decent amount of cap space, to be fair. They got 12 million in space. They can save a further 21 by releasing Frank Clark. I think we can go ahead and report that that's being done now.
But they'd eat 15 million up just re-signing those two.
Yeah, but if you're going to give them, so that's 35 million.
Yeah, but what do you think's better? I think it's better to. I think it's going to be tough for them to let both of them walk. Because if they let both of them walk, then they're going in, and Mecole Hardman's also free agent. They're going to go into free agency in the draft with nothing. I mean, they could let both of them walk. I mean, they could sign someone else.
Who are they signing, though?
There isn't anybody,
There's Jacoby Myers, DJ
Lazard,
Chark.
DJ Chark.
Like, there's no one. So you're then going into the draft.
That dude is... Jacoby Myers is an underrated baller, but...
I think I love Jacoby Myers, but he's not... When you're going out looking for a stud free agent, he's not
Jacoby Myers is not really an upgrade
over Juju. I think
really.
He is.
Not really.
I mean, not like he's not a huge difference maker. I'll give you that.
Not really.
He gets open. He's a very reliable target, but
I kind of feel like
I'm not
Jacoby would be more helpful and useful for that offense than Juju kind of was and has been recently, especially. But I agree in terms of like you can't look at him. Yeah.
Juju was good, and then he just got injured and has never been the same.
Completely trailed off. Yeah.
I feel like Tony, when he has been on the field, has looked like he's the perfect fit for that offense. Like Reed can get creative with him and get him the ball in space and make guys. It's like
the good news is
he lasts like 4 plays.
Healthy.
You're not going to have to wonder about this by March 17th. It's all going to be decided. They're either going to have retained MVS and then they'll be looking for a receiver in the draft, or they'll have signed Juju and we'll be looking for a receiver in the draft as well, or they'll have signed someone else and potentially moved on from both of them. I mean, maybe they just don't like MVS and Juju and they think that Jacoby Myers or DJ Chark or Allen Lazard, they like them better. And they sign one of them, move on, and then, they could still look for a receiver in the draft.
They could go out and trade for someone. Who knows?
And if they went out and traded for someone, they would. I think it's. Yeah, if they went out and traded for someone, I think they would still move on from these guys.
They could go give 201 for Chase Claypool.
DeAndre Hopkins would be the guy that they would trade for.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And if they traded for DeAndre Hopkins, then I don't think
I didn't see that at all. How are they going to fit him in the cap? Considering he wants a new contract.
I don't.
Well, I mean, if they don't re-sign Juju and save $7 million by getting rid of MBS, then they cut Frank Clark. I mean, they can afford it. It would be tough, but they can afford it.
Plus, they've got to re-sign their rookies.
Yeah,
that feels like
they can cut Clyde Edwards-Helaire, save $3 or $4 million from doing that. Like they can do it. They can do it. It's not I don't know if it's the best move, but they can.
What kind of money do you think Hopkins commands at his age? I don't know.
I wouldn't be wanting to give him a new contract, but he's asking for 25 mil, isn't he?
I don't
25 mil.
I don't know about that.
That's a lot of money.
I feel like even like just 20 is risky at where we're at with him, and that's I mean,
I see why he wants
I haven't
a new
heard
contract,
anything.
though.
Yeah, definitely understand that, and it's like feels like it's all but written that he's out, but I haven't seen anything that would suggest that might be like a landing spot at all. I feel like there's
Either
a couple
way,
other names floating around.
The Chiefs will have a receiver that's better than anyone they had this year, next year, from somewhere, because this has been really bad, despite the fact that they're in the Super Bowl. It's crazy to say that.
Well, that's why
he's the best receiver.
Yeah. Well, that's why
I also think
Matt said is also just like, it's so frustrating because when Tony is actually out there and he like gets the ball and gets like he looks so great and like just getting by tackles. They can't bring him down. Like I've never seen the first guy come in and actually bring him down. Even last night when he got hurt, shook one guy off, tried to plant his foot. He was going to make a nasty juke, and what do you know? He sprained his ankle or whatever on that. Like. It's just like that's so frustrating because you see it, like you see his explosiveness.
They need a one.
Just,
that's what they need. Is they need a one, and we all know that.
Yeah.
I don't know who they're going to be able to acquire, but the offseason is long. You never know. A lot of things could happen. I don't think people really saw Tyreek Hill being traded to the Dolphins when the offseason started.
That happened in the course of one day. It's like, oh, he might be gone. Oh, he's a Dolphin. So you never know.
I don't know what this means.
Hat man.
A James Robinson problem? I don't know if you really have a James Robinson problem. Like, what's the problem?
If you believe in his talent, that's your problem.
He's terrible. As a Jets fan, it was awful.
Stop believing in his talent. Problem solved.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, rather than cutting him though, whatever the last round pick is in your league, whether it's a fourth or a fifth, whatever, go and offer him to every single team in your league for that pick.
I would take him for a fifth. So you'd get a fifth from me.
Well, there you go. If it doesn't get accepted by anyone, then he is worthless and you can drop him.
That's smart.
I would take him for a fifth for sure. I'd take any running back who had anything near that level of success for a fifth. You just never know.
Yeah.
He got beat out by Ty Johnson. Come on.
I know, but you get the Deonta Foreman where they're like successful, like, and then years later it happens again. So anyone who's been as successful as he was is someone that I'm going to not drop out of my rankings completely until they're completely out of the NFL, which he is not yet. And he's only 25. So, but yeah, I'm not saying buy him, but. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are you?
I'm not from the Charlotte area. I'm from the Raleigh area. So I am from North Carolina.
How close are those to each other? I'm from New York. To me, the rest of the country is kind of all the same.
It's about 2.5 hours from where I grew up to Charlotte.
And, see, to me, they're like right next to each other. But
and actually, right now I live in South Carolina, so I'm about 2 hours the other direction from Charlotte now. I'm in the Clemson area, so
I think you should move to New York.
I love hearing you guys describe somewhere as like, I'm just down the road, 2 hours. 2 hours for us is literally the other end of the country.
Well, for me, it's like all these places are like very, I don't know. Someone yesterday at some point they told me Kansas City was near Arkansas. I was like, wait, it is? I don't know. It is. I don't even know where Arkansas is. I mean, it could be somewhere in that area. I don't really know.
Well, I'm close enough that I could drive in for a game, but I'm not close enough for it to be worth having season tickets. We'll put it that way.
For me, I'm more worried about which avenue I'm on in Manhattan. It's going to take me as long to get from one end of Manhattan to the other as it would take you to get to the game. That's how bad traffic is in New York.
I believe it.
Did you miss the Kellen Moore talk? No, you didn't miss it. I mean, I think he was scapegoated in Dallas, and then in terms of hiring on the Chargers, I mean, we all said that he was better than Joe Lombardi, which is a very, very low bar. But I'm not like doing backflips.
It's how I felt when it's like, all right, the Pats are getting, someone else in. It's like, I don't care who it is. It's going to be better than Matt Patricia. It's like, it kind of felt
Joe
a little
Judge.
Bit like that. Like it was just,
All right. First round pick plus some for Lamar for the Panthers.
Add another 3 first rounders on there and you might have a conversation.
Yeah. First round pick plus
Lamar's not going anywhere,
plus...
I really don't think Lamar's going anywhere. I think this is overblown.
Yeah, if he was leaving, I would love to find a way to get him because, I mean, like I told you guys earlier, I'm sick of the Band-Aid thing. And the draft
But what's the price?
I don't know, man. I mean, the draft feels so risky right now. Like, we didn't tank well enough, and we're sitting at 9, and outside of Young and Stroud, I think these quarterbacks are such gambles. So I don't know. If there was any way that we could get Lamar, and I felt this way, I mean, it feels dirty to say it.
Lamar,
when the Deshaun thing was happening, it was like, oh man, we haven't had a quarterback that we could feel good about in such a long time. Like,
and how did that work out?
Well, we didn't get him, so.
Well, it worked out well because you didn't get him.
You're telling me
terrible
wasn't the answer?
Didn't give 250 guaranteed.
I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't. I'd have said not to. But people
if
had
Deshaun
other
Watson
opinions.
costs, what was he? So he was 3 firsts, a second, and a third.
Lamar
and they gave him
that much.
230 million guaranteed. So Lamar is played more recently, been better,
worth more than that.
A serial, all sorts of results hanging over him. What's the cost for Lamar? You're having to pay 4 firsts plus give him
I think the difference is though that
Horn or something like some really young.
Deshaun was still under a long-term contract with Houston, whereas Lamar is an impending free agent. So they would have Lamar on the franchise tag. They don't have as much leverage as what Houston had.
They have a lot of leverage.
I disagree. I think they've got just as much. The Ravens can franchise Lamar 3 times, which is essentially a 3-year contract, which is what Deshaun Watson had.
Additionally, there's not all of this. First of all, what people always forget about Deshaun Watson is that before any of that happened, he refused to play for the Texans. That was before. And then there was a whole other problem. And despite all of that public refusal to play for the Texans, and then everything, all the horrible things that Deshaun Watson did, he still, despite all of that and a year delay, still got 3 firsts and all of that money. So Lamar is not refusing to play and also doesn't have all of these other major risks. So I don't think Lamar's getting traded. I don't think anyone can afford it. I think we're at the point where the cost, this Deshaun Watson thing was a dumb thing that the Browns did. And I think that now that it was done, and look at how it went very badly. I think that teams are going to be very wary of gutting your entire team for years. The Russell Wilson trade, how did that one go? How does that look now? It didn't go so well. I think teams are going to be very wary of trading 3 firsts and then giving $200 million guaranteed, because if it doesn't work out, you've set yourself back not for 1 year. The Aaron Rodgers extension, it was bad. It was bad. But the Packers, if they just take their medicine this year, they can be free and clear for 2024. The Browns are stuck until 2026. The Broncos are stuck until really 2025 at a minimum, because no one's going to bail them out. They're stuck with these disasters for years and years to come. So I really don't think anyone's going to pay the price that the Ravens would ask, which is rightfully the 3 firsts that we've been talking about. I think it would cost the Carolina picks at 9. I think it would cost 9, 2024 first and 2025 first. I think that's what it would cost. And nobody's going to pay that. Nobody's going to pay that and then hand him $200 million guaranteed, because you can't win that way. You can't win if you have to pay a quarterback $200 million and you don't have any first round picks. You're not going to be able to build a winning team that way. So plus, and that's assuming it works out. That's assuming it works out. That's assuming it works out and the quarterback plays well. It's still going to be hard. If it doesn't work out, then you're in years of shit. So what's going to happen is that Lamar is going to agree to a contract extension with the Ravens because there's no other way. Otherwise, I mean, he's just going to hold out and pass up $170 million guaranteed. I mean, that is an idea. That's something he could do, but it doesn't sound so good. Where's my $170 million? I'll sign it. So I don't think that's going to happen.
I wonder if he would play on the franchise tag. I don't know that he would, but.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't have a choice, really.
Yeah, I guess they did change the CBA. You can't really hold out.
You can't hold out.
He basically either retires or plays on the franchise tag because he's good. They can keep him for 3 years and he chooses not to play. I do think of leverage.
Of all the organizations, the Ravens are one of the ones that I think will not buckle. Like they will just be like, well, it is what it is. And once you get past July 15th, you can't negotiate a long-term deal on the franchise tag. So once you get past July 15th, it's either at that point on July 16th, it's either sign the franchise tag or don't play at all. Those are his only options. There is no negotiation. They're not allowed to negotiate. So there's no option at that point. Even if the Ravens wanted to negotiate with him, they can't. So they're going to be in that situation if they get to July 16th. But I don't think that's what happens. I think what happens is that they agree to a deal before the deadline. Actually, I think they agree to a contract extension early. Like, I think they agree to a contract extension in March. Like, I think this deal is done early, not late. And then he just stays. That's what I am predicting. But we'll have to see. You never know. The gum. Huh. Oh, we just talked about this.
Pete Carroll.
Oh, yeah. We just talked about this. Sell high on Ramondre. I mean, what's high, though? Like, what's high?
I'm all in on Ramondre.
I don't want to say I'm all in, but I don't think, given his current price, that he's a sell high.
No. I just bought him for the 111 in a league.
That's not.
Oh, that's easy.
That's a buy. That's a buy. That's exactly my point earlier, right? Where it's like, some people are gonna want to give you Ramondre for that 111. It's like, if I have them and someone's willing to give me, 105, it's like, okay, and we might be talking about for 111. I'm gonna say no.
I'm keeping. Like in a super flex, I will say, like, I don't have him that high. Like, I have him about equivalent in value to like the 108, but there's a big difference between the 108 and the 111.
See, so in a super flex league, I'd pay the 106. I think the 105 is the point at which I'd book.
For me, I think if I can get one of those at the 106, I'm going to be getting one of those receivers, either Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, or Quentin Johnston. And given that they're all probably going to go in the top 20, I think I would rather, those are all very good prospects. Ramondre is already going to be 25 in February. He's not 21. If Ramondre is another one, I feel like if Ramondre Stevenson were 2 years younger with the rest of his class, or what he could have been coming into the class, then maybe I would feel that way. But because he's not, I would take those wide receivers who are all, I believe, 20, 21 years old or so, or 20.
For me,
21.
I think 2 years of top 12 running back production from Ramondre, I'm happy paying the 106 for that. I
just can't with those receivers. I can't do that because those receivers for me have upside to be, could be close to, they'll probably be top 20 dynasty wide receivers immediately coming in. And I can't
get on Johnston being a top 20 wide receiver.
If he goes in the top 10 of the NFL draft, he's going to be like, whether you're in on it or not, he's going to be.
He might be an ADP. He's not going to be.
He's going to be in ADP. He's going to be higher than that ADP. And for me, I'm fine with it. I don't have like I have him third of those three. I have Addison first, and JSN second, and Johnson third. Against what the draft orders is going to be.
I've not done my ranks, but he's seventh in my film ranks so far. So
yeah, he's going to be first off the board, almost for sure.
It's mad.
I was not what I would do, but I'm fine picking him in the first round. I don't think that's crazy. I just think the other two are better.
Obscene.
The other two are better, but I'm fine. First round, I don't have a problem. But I think he's going to be the first one off the board. Pretty much every mock I've seen has him as the first one off the board. Any recent mock. He's in the top 10 in most of them. Actually, I was just looking at Carolina's picks And the most recent mock I was looking at had them taking him at 9.
Don't do that to me, Tyler.
That's what it says. I mean, that's what it says right here. It says right here.
I believe you. I'm just I don't want to hear it.
I know. I'm just saying that's what it's the one I was reading says that they're going to pick him at 9. I actually don't think he's going to make it there. To be honest with you. No, I don't. I think he could go even higher than that. But we'll have to see. Also, I'm not sure Carolina's going to be picking at 9. I think Carolina is looking to move up a little, make a move. For Will Levis, because that's going to make you much. I legitimately think that's actually what's going to happen. I'm very sorry. I think Will Levis is bad for the record.
Tyler's trying to give me my 2 least favorite prospects in this class.
I'm sorry, but the 2 mock drafts I've seen for Carolina, I will say this one
those
had
are your
them choices.
choices.
Johnston. The other one had them trading up for Will Levis. Those are the 2 that I've seen.
I just think Tyler hates me. Wants me.
I am so sorry. I would not pick Quentin Johnston in the top 10. I don't think so. I think I would pick him in the first round after the other 2 receivers. I think the other 2, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith, and Jake, but they're better. I would pick them. I'm fine with the top 10 or 15. Fine with that. And Quentin Johnston, maybe 20 or so. Overall, I would be fine with that. Because I think it's more fair, but the NFL doesn't see it the way that I do. And I think the way that most Dynasty analysts do. I think, what do most Dynasty analysts have, or Debbie? What do they have it as? I mean, I think I've seen
really polarizing. I mean,
well, I've seen the most. I've seen JSN 1, Jordan Addison 2, Johnston 3 is what I've seen the most.
I've seen a lot of Johnston ranked 1, and I don't see it at all.
From people in Dynasty community?
Well,
not what I've seen.
I'll be honest. I try not to look at people's Dynasty ranks because I don't want it to color my evaluation at all.
Oh, I have to for rookies. I just don't know them yet.
I try not to look. I think I've got 3 prospects left to do film grades on. I just know that, and then I'll go into the analytic model.
I'm fine admitting that I am not. If I did all the rookie work myself without looking at anything else, it wouldn't go very well. Like I have to. I've gotten to the point for start sit on a given week or redraft rankings. I really do it all myself. Like I don't look at anyone else's redraft ranks or anyone else's weekly ranks. But for Dynasty, I don't really either. But for rookie ranks, I have to. Like otherwise, I'm just gonna.
The thing with Johnston in this class in particular is, you got JSN 6', 190. He played 90% out of the slot. In his. I mean, because he didn't play this year, he was hurt. So you go back to last year, his really one college season. He was 90% out of the slot with Olave and Wilson on the outside. Everybody wanted to see, can he play on the outside this year with those guys graduated, but he was hurt and you never really got the chance to see it. So, I mean, Addison is similar. I mean, he's listed at it's like 175 pounds or something. I mean, he's a small dude.
Well, who do you have at 1 then?
The reason that people are gravitating towards Quentin Johnston is because they're chasing that. Like, he has the most potential in people's eyes to be that, alpha top 5, A.J. Brown type of a wide receiver. And I think it's chasing a little bit, in my opinion. I mean, I still have a lot of film study left to do. And when I look at the All-22, there are some – it's a mixed bag. There are some plays where he does separate and he doesn't get looked at because Max Duggan was not a very good quarterback. Despite being a Heisman finalist, he's not a good thrower of the football. But there's also, when you think of an alpha wide receiver, you're thinking like Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, like these guys that get open and command targets and win 50-50 balls at an 80-20 rate. And the quarterback needs to move the chains. He's looking that guy's way every time. But Johnston, I mean, he gets 4 or 5 targets most games. He goes whole drives where he doesn't even get looked at because he's not separating. And even despite being 6'4", he doesn't play with great physicality at the point of the catch. He gets bullied and boxed out by some of these DBs despite being way bigger than them.
So you're saying you don't like him?
I think that there are moments where he shows on film what everybody is so excited about. He can do it.
Can you point out whatever game that is? Because I didn't see it at all.
He doesn't do it consistently enough for me. I think there's a lot of projecting going on with Quentin Johnston because
I think that this is the trap that people fall into every single year, where they're chasing the Calvin Johnson wide receiver phenomenon rather than chasing what actually works. And people are going, "Oh, he's 6'4", he's fast, he's going to be incredible." And we do it every single year. And every single year, these big-bodied, you want to call them alpha, you want to call them X receivers, get overdrafted. And people don't realize you named two alphas there, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams. They're two of the best route runners in the league. And it's like, okay, yeah, we can talk about height and weight and size and BMI until the cows come home. There is no statistical correlation between height, speed, weight, BMI, and fantasy production. Okay, Jordan Addison's 175 pounds. Well, so's Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith is absolutely dominating in the league, and people were telling me that his ankles were too skinny and he was too small to be competent. The guy is an incredible route runner. The guy is at 175 pounds, an amazing contested catch receiver. But people kept telling me it would never happen because
JSN is similar. I mean, 6 foot 190. That's like almost identical to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who also plays mostly out of the slot, and he's been a top 8 fantasy wide receiver the last 2 years. So I completely agree with you. I think route running is the number one most important trait for a wide receiver. I said the same thing last year about Garrett Wilson. He was my wide receiver one over guys like London and Burks and that type of thing. And I mean, part of that, people faded him because he went to the Jets and situation and all these things. But that dude is just such a natural separator. He's such an elite route runner. So that's the number one. I'm totally with you. That's the number one thing anybody should be looking for with wide receiver. Everything else is icing on the cake. But he's got to be.
I don't get why people slagging off JSN because he plays primarily out the slot. It's like, okay, everybody's got CeeDee Lamb in their top 5 dynasty wide receivers. He plays out the slot 78% of the time. People have got Amon-Ra St. Brown as a dynasty wide receiver 1. He plays out the slot 78% of the time. Like, just because he's a slot receiver, okay, it means he can't go and play in every team. Okay, it means he's not going to fit in every single offensive scheme. Okay, fine. He only needs to fit in one. It's probably going to be the one that drafts him. No one's going to spend a first-round pick on him. I do think
we're moving away from the slot-only wide receivers, but they are rare. They're rare. Yeah, but we don't see them as much anymore. Teams are more willing to let smaller players play outside than they used to.
Yeah, but he's not a Braxton Berrios type that's going to play 50% of the snaps and run out the slot. He's going to be a 78% snap share. How often does CeeDee Lamb come off the field? How often does Amon-Ra St. Brown come off the field? Exactly. And that's what JSN's going to be. He's not going to be someone that sees, like Elijah Moore last year, when he moved to the slot from week 6 on, he went from being a 95 to 100% snap share kind of guy to suddenly only playing 70-80% of the snaps. And it's like, okay, if that's what JSN is going to be at the next level, I can see that. But nobody's spending a first round pick on JSN and making him play only 75% of the snaps.
No, he's going to be out there constantly.
And I don't know about you guys, but when guys, his teammates like Olave and Garrett Wilson are saying that they think that he's the best out of all three of them and is like the best, that raises my eyebrows. Like most guys nowadays, they're like, I'm the best. I'm a top 5 guy. And these guys are already, they came in. We didn't think this wide receiver class was going to be awesome, but those two especially, they outperformed expectations, and they're already, top 12 dynasty guys. And they both told us, last year, 2 years ago, no, like JSN, like I think he's better than both of us. Like he's like the best Ohio State wide receiver ever. It's like, sure, that might be exaggerating a little bit.
I did see a mock. I find this hard to believe, but I did see a mock where JSN went to the Jets at 13 overall.
I don't get that.
That's obscene. I
don't get that.
I saw it.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Doesn't make any sense.
I'm saying
why?
I don't.
The only thing I could see the Jets.
Know
you know what? I hate Johnston, but I could see the Jets going out and drafting somebody like that who's a big body X that would complement Wilson and Elijah Moore nicely. Going out and getting a third undersized
Johnston's not going to make it to 13,
runner.
so I think you're good.
But why? But that's obscene.
You already have Denzel Mims.
I'm just telling you, it's reality.
Corey Davis.
Denzel Mims is here.
Corey Davis is going to be a cap casualty, by the way. That's like basically, as someone from New York, like that's basically confirmed. Corey Davis is gone. And Corey Davis is actually someone interesting because I think Corey Davis was half decent, but obviously Garrett Wilson took the offense was so bad passing wise. Garrett Wilson took everything that there was when it was functioning. Corey Davis, I think, could sign somewhere and actually be half okay. So we'll have to see. For cheaper.
Yeah, I don't know. That was one of my my stats the other day. Corey Davis actually led the league in receiving yards in the final 2 minutes of games this year.
All right. So let's So where was I? We were talking about
about to talk about the Eagles.
Well,
right?
Okay. Well, no, I want to talk about the 49ers quarterback situation. Now that we got through some of the questions, here are the links. This is Rich's YouTube and that's Matt's YouTube. So make sure to check those out.
Thanks, Tyler.
And then we'll get to that in a second. But let's talk about the 49ers quarterback situation because we have some new perspectives today. New perspectives. So it's over. Their season is over. They lost. Now, who's going to be the 49ers quarterback week 1, 2023?
Trey Lance.
It's not going to be. I will bet you. How much money you want to bet?
I'm not a gambling man.
I will bet. If anyone is willing to give me that bet straight up.
What I'd say, Tyler, for me, okay, I think there is a let's call it for the sake of argument, let's call it 50% chance that Trey Lance is the starter, 50% chance that Brock Purdy is the starter. Okay.
Yeah.
Depending on your feelings, that those percentages.
I think it's about 90%.
Okay. Whatever. But if Trey Lance wins the job, okay, what do the 49ers do with Brock Purdy?
He just sits there.
Exactly. Now, flip that. If Brock Purdy wins the job, what do the 49ers do with Trey Lance?
Honestly, I think he just sits there. I really do.
I think with the amount they've invested in him,
Trey Lance at all. I don't think they can get anything. And his contract's underwater. His contract's
There's
underwater. If they trade him, they would take on more dead cap than they'd save.
I think there is no chance that if Brock Purdy wins, Trey Lance sits there as a backup.
Oh, absolutely. I think well, then we disagree because his contract is underwater, and I don't think any NFL team is giving anything for him. Maybe a 3rd round pick. And I think at that price, they just keep him because they've had 3 quarterback injuries this year. I don't think they're rushing to. I think unless they can get a 1st round pick for Trey Lance, they will not trade him.
I think there's a team out there that would do it.
Well, if they can get a 1st round pick for Trey Lance, I would say bye-bye. Like, bye-bye. I don't want him.
And that's it. I think that there's, as much as there's probably, I think there's, for me, it's 50-50, but I think there's in the 50% chance that Purdy starts, I think Trey Lance is starting elsewhere.
I don't think so. I think he's going to just sit there, personally. I really do think it's not in the 49ers' best interest to take anything less than a 1st for Trey Lance. And I don't think any NFL team is giving them a 1st for Trey Lance. I think you'd be crazy. I wouldn't give it. If I were running an NFL team, I would not give a 1st for Trey Lance. I would maybe give a late if I'm in the later part of the second.
Would the Broncos give the 49ers back their pick for Trey Lance?
What? No.
Definitely not. They need a quarterback. Ross Wilson's not the answer.
No.
Let's double down. Just keep throwing picks at
quarterbacks. To be honest, I'm looking at the board. I'm looking at the draft board, the full draft board, and the first team I see that would actually consider it at the current value of their pick is probably Tampa Bay if they don't re-sign Brady at 51. It's the earliest pick I could see them getting. That's the most I think they can get. And at that price, given what they've gone through with quarterback this year, given how ready they are as a contender, what's better? Keeping Trey Lance for 2 years of his current contract, even if you're probably, not necessarily going to keep him, or taking the 51st pick in the draft. I think that it's not bad. And then there could be another injury, and then Trey Lance comes in. You have to have options at quarterback. You can't, why not keep someone on a cheap rookie deal who has upside, even if, there's no reason not to let him rot unless someone is giving you better. Trey Lance has no leverage, like none at all. All he's done is be injured. So he's no leverage. None. So if they want to do that, they can. I mean, look what they did to Jimmy Garoppolo this year. Look what they did. They could have cut him. They had the whole offseason to cut him, but they kept him around, and they could have cut him. They kept him around, and then they were able to re-sign him to the backup deal because they had all the leverage. Once again, they have all the leverage. They have all the leverage over Trey Lance. Trey Lance has no leverage. He can't do anything. What's he going to do? Hold out as the backup quarterback? No. So they can do whatever they want. And I think that if Brock Purdy wins the job, which I expect, Trey Lance is going to sit there and wait. And we'll have to see.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you that no teams should be giving up picks higher than kind of the spot that you're saying, but I still feel like there's going to be a team that
I just don't think anyone is interested. I really don't. The buzz that I've been hearing, I don't think anyone is interested in trading for Trey Lance at all. I really don't. I don't think anyone wants.
Rightfully so, I'd say.
Now there's going to be more of. Let's talk about that. There's going to be more of a delay. So now there's going to be a new problem. There was a new surgery. It's going to take a long time. Why would you're going to trade for a quarterback who's not even going to be ready to participate in the offseason program, who hasn't played more than 2 games or 3 games of full games of meaningful football since 2019, and you're going to trade for that, and that's going to be your starting first round pick for that? I mean, I can't. You can't. That's not how the NFL works. That's not possible. That is not going to happen. So the only way that he's getting out of there is if the 49ers are willing to take a minimal deal with negative dead cap. And why would they ever do that? That makes no sense. So if Brock Purdy wins the job as I expect him to, Trey Lance is going to sit there.
What I would
hope for Trey Lance is that he wins the job.
From a dynasty perspective, in a super flex league, if I had one, I would be trying to acquire the other, because I don't feel incredibly confident either way predicting who's going to win that job. And I think that whoever ends up being the 49ers starting quarterback is going to be a really valuable asset. So if I had one, I'd either be trying to sell or I'd be trying to acquire the other. That's what I would be doing.
That's an interesting point.
Brock Purdy was a huge sell for me, but now I think you're not going to get the return that you wanted. Because I don't think Brock Purdy is going to be a fantasy superstar. Remember, we play fantasy football. Brock Purdy is not going to win a fantasy title for you. Just like Jimmy Garoppolo.
But I think he's, if he wins that job and is the long-term starter in San Francisco, which that's another question. If he's there next year, does that mean that he's long-term? No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
But
it does not mean that.
A long-term starter in Superflex is valuable, whether they're lighting the fantasy world on fire or not. I think, solid QB2 at the very least if he wins the job.
Yeah. I agree with you, like Jimmy Garoppolo was. For me, what this has done, though, is it's opened the door for the 49ers. Not that Brock Purdy, this is why Brock Purdy is a sell for me if people are super in on him. Not that Brock Purdy is necessarily going to be their franchise quarterback. That's not necessarily my big concern. My big concern is that now the door has been opened that their next franchise quarterback is not Trey Lance either. Now, if we get to Brock Purdy starting, then a year 3 of Trey Lance, NFL crazy things can happen at any time. I mean, quarterbacks become available. There could be, they could be picking high in the draft. Who knows what's going to happen? They could get a different franchise quarterback at another time. You never know who's going to become available. And then I just think that it shows that they are not locked on Trey Lance. And I'm not sure that Trey Lance would be the same superstar for fantasy in another system that he would be in this one. I don't have any confidence really that Trey Lance is good. We're talking about his tape from 4 years ago. I mean, I don't want to hear about tape from 4 years ago. I mean, players have had whole careers in the time that Trey Lance has. I mean, Joe Burrow has had an entire NFL career in the time, 3 years of an entire NFL career in the time that since Trey Lance has played more than 2 games of meaningful football in a year. So we have to realize that he is risky and comes with risk. And some people, the big Trey Lance truthers, the Trey Lance stands are just assuming that he's going to be handed a franchise job. And I think that is an assumption that's dangerous because you don't get handed anything in the NFL. It's not a guarantee. People have lost their careers due to injury in the NFL. Maybe you could say it's unfair, but it's happened. And that may have happened in this case. And sometimes you don't get your career back on track. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So, and I don't think he's like a superstar like Trevor Lawrence or Patrick Mahomes, who's always going to find a way. I don't think he's that. So sometimes if the ball just doesn't bounce your way, it didn't bounce your way. You know, maybe if he had gone to a different team where he'd started year one and he had established himself, it could have been different, but it wasn't. So I think it's an unfortunate story. I mean, Jordan Love is another one. Like, I don't think he got a little unlucky. He never had an opportunity to win the job over Aaron Rodgers. He got a little unlucky that this is where he went. Like, he didn't choose to be drafted by the Packers. There was nothing he could have done to win that starting job over the last 3 years. Just like there was nothing Aaron Rodgers could have done to win the starting job over the 3 years he sat behind Brett Favre. So sometimes things happen that are not necessarily your fault. And this is one of those times. But it is what it is. And now we're here. So I don't know. That's just kind of my opinion on that. But it's, I think there's a lot of take lock on Trey Lance as well. A lot of take lock. People don't want to admit that it might not work out for a player they were very high on. That's, another thing that has been going around on Twitter. But I don't know. We'll have to see is really, I think, the main thing. But I'm pretty confident that they're going to go with Brock Purdy. What about the Eagles?
They did what they had to do. They didn't have to get out of second gear, did they?
How'd they get to 31 points? They had 4 rushing touchdowns and only 140 rushing yards.
You had a Boston Scott rushing touchdown, 2 Miles Sanders rushing touchdown. There's always a
Boston Scott rushing touchdown.
Always, man. And then Hurts rushing touchdown.
Man. Who's going to win the Super Bowl next week? What do you guys think?
Who I want to win is the Chiefs. If Patrick Mahomes is still hobbling, I think it's going to be hard because that Eagles team is really complete. They're really good on both sides of the ball. They've got, their advantage is at almost every position except for quarterback. So Mahomes needs to be healthy, I think, for them to be able to pull that off.
Yeah. Can we just talk about how far Jalen Hurts has come from talking about being replaced to now
the improvement.
How has that happened? That's crazy to me. How he was such a speculative asset coming into the draft, and now he's 3rd overall super flex asset for most people.
Yeah. He was going 2nd round startups last offseason just off of the upside that he had to be what he's become. But I think there were a lot of people, myself included, that were wrong about him and were saying he's not a good passer, sell while you still can, and that was a mistake because he is that dude.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. I definitely felt like it wasn't going to be somewhere where he's just lose his job at any point during the year, or even, it felt like it was a little too much, but to see what he's done this year, I don't think, many people expected him to be right behind the top 2, especially in the super flex landscape. So,
and even did the Eagles, though. That's why they kicked that 1st round pick down the road, didn't they? That's why they made the Saints. They wanted that extra draft capital because they weren't convinced on Hurts, and they wanted to be able to, if Hurts wasn't the answer, they wanted those 2 first to be able to go out and get the next answer. So, I don't think we can sit here and look back and say we should have believed in Hurts anymore because the Eagles didn't.
No. Yeah, no, and now look where now they're just in a dream spot where they believe in him, and they got extra firepower in the draft to be able to, really compete for years going forward. But
because you got to think, if he had come out and, they went and acquired AJ Brown, and, now you got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard, the whole thing, this elite defense. And if he had just been what he was last year, and they're a borderline playoff team that gets bounced in the 1st round, he probably would have lost his job So kudos to him for putting in the work and improving significantly as a passer. I don't think it's just about, they got A.J. Brown. I think, he got a lot better from last year to this year. And
I do think the coaching definitely, it seems to fit what just Jalen Hurts is as a person too. It's just Sirianni just on the sideline being himself and whatnot. But yeah,
I think
it is crazy.
The thing that gets brushed over as well is what they went out and got AJ Brown. They got a receiver, and people talk about going and getting a stud receiver. But it wasn't just the fact they went and got a stud receiver. It was the exact type of receiver that Jalen Hurts needed. Jalen Hurts last year basically didn't throw the ball between the numbers. He was 32nd in the league in terms of completed passes, less than 20 yards downfield between the numbers. He was completely allergic to throwing the ball in that center part of the field. What's AJ Brown's best skill? In breaking routes, winning on those in breaking routes. Yes, the Eagles have turned him into more than that, but you go back to the Titans and put on any Titans film, 50, 60, 70% of AJ Brown's catches were slants and digs. And that's what he brought. And Jalen Hurts, I think 5% tick up in his completion percentage this year. It was a perfect fit for what Jalen Hurts needed. And credit to the Eagles for not just go out and acquiring and being aggressive to get a receiver, but getting the exact type of receiver he needed to take that next step.
Absolutely. I remember I did a little thread last offseason where I talked about exactly what you just said, where, he definitely got a lot of knock for his passing last year, but in terms of, deep ball accuracy, catchable pass, he was, in that top 12, it's just those danger plays, those interceptable passes. That's where he really needed to work on it. And, what helps better than just an alpha guy with, contested catchability, and just, he can beat man, especially with absolute ease. So I agree with you there, where it's not just the fact that they got him that number one receiver. It's just that fit is exactly just what he needed in his game to really take him to the next level. So I mean, it's great to see just it work out exactly how, you'd think something like that would.
So I think one thing to talk about heading into the offseason with the Eagles is their running back situation. If I'm not mistaken, Miles Sanders is a free agent.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Kenneth Gainwell looked really good yesterday. Now I don't know that he's a long-term answer. He's a little undersized, but he looked really good. And there's a lot of speculation.
Scott's a free agent.
Yeah, in a lot of mock drafts that you see, it's a pretty popular spot for Bijan or Gibbs to land because they're one of the few teams that kind of has that luxury in a sense that they've got that extra high first-round pick that they don't really need, and they're set at almost every position except running back. And so it makes a lot of sense. Now, teams don't always do what makes sense, and usually these really popular landing spots don't end up being what actually happens. But that is their running
Wouldn't
back.
That be something, though?
Bijan
goes to the Eagles.
Oh, my gosh. Whoever gets that job, it's a good job. It's a good job.
It's going to be really boring, though, isn't it? You can pencil it in now. They're going to draft an edge rusher or an interior D lineman and probably a guard. And that's it. And everyone will get really excited for Bijan. And then they'll probably go and spend some money in free agency and bring in someone. And everyone will get excited for them.
Sanders.
But then everyone will hype up the free agent signing, and then they'll draft somebody day two. And then it'll be like, oh, okay, it's just going to be a backfield of three different guys.
It felt bringing me back to the feels of, the Bills last year. Everyone wants them to take Brees in the late first, and then they go out and they get a corner that doesn't really play, and it's just it definitely speaks to it might look like such a good fit and it would be helpful for that offense, but teams don't really just do what looks like it would push them over the top, whatever. They have their eggs in other baskets.
I also don't think they'd use Bijan to his fullest extent in terms of we can all sit here and say, oh, but he'd be so great in there. look, Hurts scrambles more often than most quarterbacks, so there isn't the volume of check down passes. He's going to take, somewhere between 5 and 6 designed runs every game. That's 5 to 6 touches that Bijan's not going to get. I think for me, he'd probably be incredibly efficient, but I don't necessarily think if he goes, no, I'm still going to take him 101, but if he goes to the Eagles, I'd probably knock him a little bit than if he went almost anywhere in the league.
But at the same time,
even though they've got that incredible offensive line.
Read option, though, it does open up lanes. And I think, if Miles Sanders can be fantasy relevant running
Pro
back,
Bowler,
which he was this year, then,
Oh, I think Bijan would be scarily efficient in the offense, but is he going to see the volume to be?
He'd be scarily efficient in any offense.
There's definitely better landing spots. I definitely agree in terms of for his personal fantasy volume.
What difference does it make? Bijan is not going to make it that far down the board.
Oh well, no, yeah.
Don't they have a high pick from the Saints?
I was going to say, aren't
they
picking
but that's
8
too
or 9?
high. That's too high.
I
think he's going to go somewhere between those. Yeah,
I've seen mocks where he goes high to the Eagles with the Saints pick, and I've also seen mocks where Gibbs goes low to the Eagles.
That's more likely. That's more likely. Gibbs at 32 or 31.
I'd hate Gibbs in Philly.
Why?
Because I think that he needs a pocket passer check down Charlie. And I think that Hurts is never gonna Gibbs is never gonna get the receiving volume with a quarterback like Hurts, who is read 1 to 2 to take off. He needs a 1 to 3 to 4. Don't get me wrong, I think Gibbs would be efficient as a runner, but I don't think he's going to get the receiving work that he could potentially get.
Imagine Gibbs with Big Ben.
So speaking of running backs,
or Mac Jones,
thoughts on buying J.K. Dobbins for a late first? Feels like he'd be better at any RB in that range. Also, the market's kind of low on him. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely not. I'm totally out. Totally out. Totally out. Yeah. Oh, totally out.
Given what you had said, you said you paid 111 for Ramondre. That's kind of now in my head where it doesn't seem like too bad. But if you can get someone
totally
like Ramondre for that same exact range, then I don't want to.
In one QB,
I'd have Ramondre over JK, but
absolutely.
In one QB, maybe, but in Superflex, definitely not. In Superflex, 4 quarterbacks, then I'm going to want more. Because I think they're all going to go in the first round.
I believe in Dobbins' talent. I think
I believe in nothing about Dobbins' talent. Honestly.
It's a shame Josh's knee.
Nothing. And honestly, I have seen many mocks with Bijan at 23. So I will totally pass on J.K. Dobbins, Mr. Complaining Pants. I'm good. I don't want him at all.
I have a decent number of shares from last offseason that have been frustrating, to say the least.
Yeah. Sell them while you still can.
Well, so I don't think I'm not gonna sell low. I'm gonna hold and hope for the best, but I'm not buying either. He's just.
Would you take this? You wouldn't take 110? Someone offers you 110?
I think I would.
I could not be more confident that they're going to take a running back in the draft. This is the last year of J.K. Dobbins' contract. This is the time. This is the time. As one running back's contract is expiring, this is the time. This is the time you bring in the next one. I'm very confident. Very, very confident they're bringing in a running back in the draft.
Well,
they have to.
If that happens, and you had already traded 110 for him, then you're probably feeling kind of crappy about that.
Pretty much, yeah. He's a hard sell for me. He's someone I will never draft. No interest in acquiring. He's off my board, essentially. At anywhere near his price, which means I won't get him. I'd pay the 205 or 206 to get him, and that's not going to get him. So he's off my board. Yeah. They can cut Gus Edwards. If they acquired a running back in the draft, they could release Gus Edwards and save like 4 or something million, which is the same amount that a running back picked at 23 would cost or so. I mean, I see it as a no-brainer. Assuming Lamar is back. If Lamar is not back, then who knows what they're going to do. But assuming Lamar is back, they need multiple.
Why do you think? Why are you so adamant that they're going to draft a running back when they've got glaring needs across the roster, and they've got potentially 2 solid options at running back?
Just because they don't pass the ball. They need for their offense, their running backs aren't good enough. They were injured. They missed significant time. They need to do. There's a lot of work they need to do along the roster, and even if they don't sign a running back or draft a running back, I still think that their current running back core is not good enough.
Can I ask you this though, Tyler? And I'm not trying to give you a hard time. You were saying the same thing about Saquon last year, weren't you?
Draft a running back no,
not that they were, but that you were out. No. That you were out. That he was dead to you.
Dead to me for Saquon still meant that he was worth more than J.K. Dobbins has ever been since his injury.
But why were the Ravens slow playing Dobbins coming back from injury and very cautious with him all year if they're ready to move on from him? Surely they do that because they see him as a long-term asset, not just somebody. If they saw him as someone that
he wasn't ready. I mean, if you're not ready to play, you're not ready to play.
The only reason that I asked that question about Saquon is because it's a really similar injury in that it took almost 2 full years for Saquon to look like Saquon again. And
J.K. Dobbins is not Saquon.
No, he's not. They're not the same caliber of player. But I do think that he wasn't fully right this year.
Bad Saquon is better than J.K. Dobbins has ever been. So we're not even talking about the same universe.
But we're talking about the same type of injury. That's why I bring it up. Because
well, no, it's just that I think J.K. Dobbins has always been overrated. Always. From day one. He was overrated to begin with. He was overrated because he was never going to get receiving work in this offense. And he's going to be splitting work with other backs. And I think the split is going to be worse next year because the competition, I think, is going to be better than Gus Edwards. And even this year, he continued to split work with Gus Edwards when Gus Edwards was healthy. And in this offense, I mean, how good is it going to be fantasy-wise if he's only getting like 40% of the rushing touches with Lamar and another running back? And that's with Gus Edwards.
But I think it's because he wasn't ever fully healthy. I mean, I think
the 4-week stretch we saw of Dobbins this year when he was healthy, week 14 to 17, he was first in the league in rushing yards, first in yards per carry, first in big time runs, first in yards up after contact per carry, and was the RB3.
It's not sustainable without the receiving work, though.
Okay,
he was the RB3.
He had one reception.
On the week, he never even finished higher than RB10.
Yeah, that's not even possible. I mean, he had, 2 touchdowns all year?
He had 18, 13, 5, and 9.
Yeah, that's not right.
What? Hang on.
You're talking about just the last 4 weeks? I mean, he was fine, but he only scored 1 touchdown and had 1 catch during that period of time. I don't think he's the RB3.
No, so
that can't be right.
That's wrong. Fantasy points are screwed up. But
right.
He was first in rushing yards, first in yards per carry, first
he didn't score, it didn't catch the ball. So
those are
it's like what I was saying. He has a problem at the goal line because they didn't prefer him there, and a problem in the receiving game, a problem because they don't throw the ball.
Valid.
Those are only going to get worse, in my opinion, because I think the best case is that it's the same as it was, where it was still a problem, or it gets much worse, and the competition is, there's the death knell scenario that I described, but there are other scenarios where it's still bad, where the competition is still stronger than, Gus Edwards. I mean, this is a team who could sign. There are other free agent running backs who are scaring me more than Gus Edwards.
Why are they spending? They're not spending cap space on a running back when they've got Lamar to sign up long term. They need all the money they can get to sign up.
Well, I mean, no receiver is ever going to sign there, so they're not going to spend cap space on a receiver. You got to spend it on something.
Yeah, Lamar.
Right, but Lamar's only one player. I mean, the cap is going to be $224 million next year.
They've just signed
one of the rumored spots for Hopkins potential.
Hopkins has a no trade clause. He's not going to be traded to somewhere where he's looking at 700 yards. He's not going there. That's not going there.
I mean, that's fair.
It's just not. I mean, we can say it all we want, but it's not going to happen. Nobody's ever going to voluntarily go to the Ravens. Not in that offense. No receiver is ever going to voluntarily go there if they have a choice to go somewhere else. Because they're not going to put up numbers. Maybe a ring chase. I mean, is Hopkins deep enough in his career that you would say he's like a ring chaser? Then maybe. If he doesn't care about the numbers, maybe. I don't know if he's that deep in his career that he feels that way. That's the only way I see them getting like a really good receiver or someone to chase a ring. But yeah, I'm totally out on J.K. Dobbins at this price. I couldn't be more out. He's low on my list even of running backs in that range because I think he's the one with the most hype, and that means I definitely don't want him. I think there are other players that I might be able to get for a lot less.
Yeah, I mean, to me is like the first point that you were saying is like, if you can get trades done with that pick for someone that's either more secure, has more upside, like that Ramondre you were talking about, it's just like, it just doesn't make sense for me to go after
players who are not workhorses and don't get receiving work are just a no for me. When they're this high priced, I'm not paying this for that. Someone who's already had multiple injuries and has had multiple years in the league. If this were a rookie, that's different. But multiple injuries, does not catch the ball, does not get all of the work. I'm just good. Someone else can have that. He can be someone else's problem, but he's not going to be my problem. I will pass. Speaking of players I'll be passing on, we have yet another one. No, thank you. On Tyler Allgeier. I'm good. Tyler Allgeier is nothing. Nothing. He's just average. He's fine. He's a placeholder. Right? I mean, did either of you see anything else other than that? Because that's what I saw. Just a placeholder.
Hammenegger. I'm happy to not touch him.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems... I mean, we see it every year. I feel like some guy comes in, he plays well, but it doesn't seem like the team is really, truly invested in him.
The thing that scares me the most about Tyler Allgeier is I can't identify one skill. Like, he's really good at that. Like, or this thing that's going to keep him around. I think he's just average.
Yeah, I think if you look up Jag in the dictionary, you're going to see his picture next to it. And, yeah, he's a prime candidate.
Yeah, there's a
I
couple
don't think his
numbers.
NFL career, I think his NFL career is going to continue. I think he's fine, but I think that's all he is. It's just fine.
I just think he's one of those guys that the team has almost nothing invested in him. He didn't really do anything special this year. He just happened to fall into a situation where they had very little at running back to begin with, and then Cordero Patterson got hurt. And so he kind of plodded his way along to like barely 1,000 yards, but he also didn't do anything in the receiving game. And so I have almost no excitement about Allgeier.
I will say I'm looking at some of his efficiency metrics on Player Profiler, and he was like between 10 and 20 in breakaway run rate, evaded tackles, juke rate, yards per touch, true yards per carry. That's kind of surprising, honestly, because it didn't seem like he was that special in any way, and kind of, pretty average, like you're saying.
I don't
but
dislike him.
Some of these metrics, they're pretty good. I won't lie. So it's tough, but I mean, I feel like a lot. Obviously, as with a lot of these questions, it's just like, well, what are you buying him for?
It's the kind of thing that he's going to have to win a competition against someone who was signed for more money or drafted higher. That's happened before. Aaron Jones, Phillip Lindsay, James Robinson, Chris Carson. It's happened, but that's the exception, not the rule. Usually the bigger money or the higher draft pick wins. So he's going to have to beat the odds, which is, again, possible. He was not bad, but I don't know. He just doesn't excite me. Even J.K. Dobbins excites me more. I think J.K. Dobbins is at least
explosive.
I can like see the elite running back in there if he were on a different team who threw the ball. Because I actually think he's good in the receiving game, but we'll never see it on the Ravens. If he were on a team that threw the ball, actually, I think he could kind of get there if everything fell his way, which it hasn't in his career. Tyler Allgeier, I don't think that's possible. I think Tyler Allgeier is just okay, which is fine. He'll probably have a nice NFL career. He'll make some money as like a player who hangs around. There are players that do that, but I don't think he's special. How is that different from what? How does that? I don't see Chark as a solution.
Doesn't block. You got to be a blocker to be a Chiefs receiver that gets on the field consistently.
That's very true because of the jet sweeps that they do and other things.
It's the reason they signed MVS and Juju. People want to talk about them as receivers. The reason they signed both of them is because they're two of the best blocking receivers in the league.
It's a good point, actually. Yeah, we'll have to think about that. Never would have thought about it that way. MVS is known for it. Juju, I didn't really know that.
Juju's.
They got to bring.
I just didn't know that because I was too busy paying attention to other things with Juju because there's so much more to pay attention to. With MVS, he never caught the ball anyway, so there was more time to focus on his blocking. But I agree that I don't think DJ Chark solves anything. What does that solve? Nothing. So
DJ Chark feels like the person that's going to go to someone like the Jets and be that bigger bodied X.
Well, he's just 1-for-1 replacement for Corey Davis.
Yeah.
In that case. Which solves nothing.
But you don't need to solve anything if you can get it means you can get Wilson and Elijah Moore on the field more.
Yeah.
And then Chark's your X in your 3 receiver sets.
I do think DJ Chark is going to get a job. And a decent contract because he looked good when he played this year.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be in that like 8 to 10 million range, maybe sign another 1-year deal.
Yeah. But, players like that keep getting jobs because with teams playing 3 wide receiver sets, there are a shortage of wide receivers. There are not 90. There's not even 80, 70 good, really competent wide receivers. There just aren't. There just are not that many. There's a shortage of wide receivers. So that's why wide receivers have an advantage in the free agent market because there is demand. There's demand for them. There are more spots than competent players. Whereas at running back, it's the other way around. There are more competent players than there are spots. So the running backs don't have any leverage. I appreciate this from Toronto. Ooh. Oh, wow. That's brutal. 14-team league with 3 starting. That is brutal. I do not think I would enjoy such a league. I will say. I don't think I would enjoy that. I'm not. I'm kind of good on that format. I don't want to play that. This is telling me I'm going to start 42 running backs a week as a league. That doesn't sound so good. A lot is the answer then, by the way. A lot more.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I would do is I'd invest in some higher priced running backs so I don't have to start one of those fringe running backs.
I kind of agree with you. I'd be more likely than ever to spend a high. I usually don't like doing that. But in this type of league, I might have to. And the other thing I would do is I'd spend a lot of later picks on running backs. Or like those flyer running backs, handcuff kind of things. But that's brutal.
Yeah, depending on how many receivers you got roster, I'd be rostering.
Oh, yeah, if you're starting 5 receivers, then that's another problem.
Yeah, but I'd probably be looking 70-80% of my bench would be running backs in that sort of league.
Couldn't agree more. Okay. Canadian geography. I sent away, so this has got to be super flex. Saquon at 24 first for Jalen Hurts.
Love that.
I'll take Jalen Hurts
super flex. If it's one QB, what the hell are you doing?
Wow, that was very dumb if it was one QB. But I assume it's super flex, and I would easily take Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is worth more than 3 firsts for me in a super flex, so it's easily.
I'd pay 4.
Would you?
I'd pay 4 for 3 players: Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen.
For me, I think it's just Allen and Mahomes. I'd consider it. Hurts, I don't know if I want to pay 4. 4 is a lot. Traditionally, I don't think any player is worth 4. In one QB, there are no players I'd pay for.
No.
Thoughts on Chubb for the 203, 205, and a third?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to take Chubb there. I mean, that's not much. Just take the rest of Chubb's career. That.
Yeah. I mean, it's a deep class, and there's going to be some good players available in the early second, but nothing like proven like Chubb.
Yeah, I think
2 seconds for Chubb is
I think
just.
the fact it's half PPR as well, it just it just
that helps
boosts Chubb's value a little bit more as well, doesn't it? So
I just feel like this is selling
and
low.
Hunt's
but
a free agent, so like, is Chubb finally going to get unleashed? Maybe.
No.
I think
you look at his on-off stats with Hunt. He basically sees no change.
There's no change. Yeah. None at all. Because Kareem Hunt wasn't even involved this year. I think if you're selling Nick Chubb, I'd rather get one better pick.
Than those
I don't even know how high that's going to be.
Agreed.
You think you can get? I think you were past the point. You need 106. I don't think so. You can try.
No.
108 maybe.
Flex or 1QB?
Well, this is super flex.
Super flex.
I'd sell for top 8 pick.
Yeah, I mean, I have him pretty low in value. I mean, according to my pick value chart that I have here, I have him below the 110. But I just don't. I don't ever draft players like this. Like Nick Chubb is off my dynasty starter. I would never draft Nick Chubb in a startup. I don't take like a dead asset, like a 27-year-old running back, almost ever. So, but I don't think even I would take this offer. I think you can do better. Yeah, that's probably what I've seen the most. We talked about some of these things.
Hey Tyler, I need to take off, but I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
Sorry to have to cut early.
No, you're good. I'm very tired. But yeah, well, no, you should definitely come on again.
Would love to, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. We'll see you later.
Yeah, we're going to go to the bottom of the chat, and then that's it. Because I'm pretty much out of gas. Okay, been looking forward to this one. Yeah, we didn't really talk about running backs much. I always put it in the show title, but we'll probably stick to the show title more when there are no more games.
I think this is the third or fourth show I've done with you, Tyler. I don't think we've ever worked our way through a show sheet.
No, we haven't.
It's a suggestion.
It's a suggestion. Not really, yeah. Honestly, if the people are listening 2 hours into the show and really want to know the show sheet, the show title is for SEO. Like actually, for these long shows, it makes no difference if we actually talk about what the show title says. But if you title it a certain way, it gets more views. So I do try to touch on the topic, but if I just titled it whatever, like Offseason Show or whatever, would not get the same views as if I titled it something like this. So
and I think we covered some guys too. You know,
we did. I'm just saying that's the primary reason that I give a show title. Is actually for that. I have franchise tag. This is
I'm not tagging any of them. I mean,
yeah, I don't think I'm tagging any of them, but this is also over my head.
It depends on what, 35 mil. Is it?
Yeah, I don't know what that
cap.
means.
Is it 1,000 mil? Like a billion cap?
This is really a Patreon question, and that's still stretching me. And that's still stretching me because I don't really play salary cap. But
you're missing out, Tyler. It's awesome.
I don't play it, but that's my Patreon. I would try my best, but on a show, I don't have no idea. I don't even know what the cap is. Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't think Minshew is bad, but he's a free agent. He'll be someone interesting to watch this offseason. See what
I think it
if
quieted
had a normal
like
haircut and no tash.
No one would care.
No one
would
talk about him. That's terrible.
If he didn't live in a van outside of the gym all summer long, and
oh my god, a van! He didn't take a shit all summer. Remember that? Honestly, Miles Sanders has been bad for like the last 7 or 8 weeks and has been riding touchdowns. He was good in the beginning part of the year, very good, but not lately. Not in this game either. He just scored 2 touchdowns. So I don't know. We'll have to see if Miles Sanders is back or not. I'm leaning not because I think he's too expensive for the franchise tag, and I think another team might pay him more. So I think he'll probably be gone.
Replaceable.
I lean toward that he's gone, but I think it's up in the air. I really do. I think that one is very up in the air. But I think he'll be signed early in free agency. He's not going to not get signed. I think he's going to get a decent offer from someone. He had a pretty good year. But there are other teams who'd be interested. So he'll have a market, and it's not just Philadelphia. I'm not sure if I want him to stay. Honestly. Yeah, that's true. The RB class is very deep. Latavius Murray. Oh boy. Gordon.
God. No.
This is I do think that the Chargers are in line to take a running back. Or sign one.
Apparently, rumor has it Dan Popper reckons that they're going to release Keenan Allen. So
really,
they can because they're over the cap and they save. I think it's 17.5 million if they let go of Keenan Allen.
Man, so, Keenan Allen, it was still good at the end of the year. Mike Williams and Popper's really not.
Popper's pretty he knows he's pretty on the stuff with this stuff. That was terrible English.
Yeah, no, I know. No, I know he's not. I think the situation is with Keenan Allen is that it's either I agree that he will not be back on his current contract, but that doesn't mean they're going to cut him. He can still take a pay cut.
Yeah.
But I do think it's going to be take a pay cut but I think he takes a pay cut and stays. I really do. But it's going to be a significant cut in pay. But I do think he has them for $6 million dead cap. I think if they say it would $23 million cap hit, if they say we'll give you 16, 15, shave.
It would be a 2-3 year deal with, maybe it's 12
it's currently
million.
A 2-year deal. 2 more years.
Yeah, left. But I mean, they'd add more money guaranteed, wouldn't they? I don't think they'd kick money down to next year.
I think that it's the kind of thing where he's not going to get this money he's not getting 17 million from anyone else.
I reckon there'd be teams that would pay that.
It's just so old.
Maybe not 17, 15. I reckon he could get 15 in the open market.
Yeah. But I think he can get.
I could see that for sure.
He can get a retiring kind of deal where he gets
just because if go and look at the free agent wide receivers, there's none. So
I think it's the kind of thing where
they
can use. I don't think they actually really want to commit to him for more. But what they can do is they can take $8 million off his salary this year, then guarantee some of his money next year, and then put a couple of void years in 25 and 26. The money he'll get, but they don't actually have to pay until that vests in 2025 and 2026.
My only concern that would be, I think the Chargers want to keep that cap 24, 25, 26 as clean as possible because that's when you're going to have to be paying Justin Herbert. If anything, I'd say they're more likely to pay him more money, like keep him on this contract or put some more money into this year and clear up next year or something like that.
Because 2024 is when it comes to, yes, they will have to extend him. But the big problem is when the base salary is paid on the extension. So his 5th-year option is in 2024. That one is not so bad. The problem comes in 2025. So if you structure the contract the way that I said, you have a couple of void years. You're talking $2-3 million in 2025 and 2026. But the last big hit for Keenan Allen will be 2024, which overlaps with the 5th-year option in Justin Herbert's contract. Then when the big cap hit hits in 2025, then you're clean of Keenan Allen and you can cut Mike Williams as well at that point. That's what I would do. That to me, that makes the most sense based on, I agree with you, but that keeps their 2025, which is when the big problem is going to be, clean. Thoughts on Cam Akers? See my conversation on J.K. Dobbins and copy it. Maybe even worse. Same kind of thing. Lots of injuries, inconsistent play. Wasn't involved enough in the passing game. Same concerns. Could add another running back. I mean, they have to. There's literally no one else there. Kyron Williams does not count because he's still running his 40. So yeah, same concerns. So, not much interest in him either. Although there is like a 3-round difference in price, which I think is, or I don't know, round and a half. I'd rather Cam Akers a round and a half later.
That was basically all I was going to say is if you're going to pay 110 to 112 for J.K. Dobbins, I'd rather.
But I'm not paying it for either.
A full round later or whatever. I'm
good on Cam Akers. He was okay, but now I actually liked buying him when he was rock bottom. I told a lot of people they got him for nothing. I was in then, but not now.
I still don't think he's just because he had a solid end of the year. His value's gone that high,
it actually went up a lot. I mean, we were talking
Really?
about someone who was outside the top 100 in ADP and now is 65 overall. So you want to say it didn't go up a lot? I mean, it did. It almost more than doubled. So it totally did go up a lot. I mean, there was a point where he was benched and sitting out. His value more than doubled. So I was in potentially on the talent at that lower price, but not at the current price. Gus Bus is it is one of my favorite nicknames. Absolutely. And then shout out Josh Palmer from the Toronto area. Yeah, he is Canadian. But so is Chase Claypool. So hit or miss. I hate Chase Claypool. Well, always that's a good way to end the show. I do not like Chase Claypool, especially now that he's on the Bears. But Josh Palmer is someone I've always liked. And we'll have to keep an eye on that Keenan Allen situation. Like I think we all agree, he cannot come back on that current contract. So they're going to restructure. He's going to be released. But it's tough if they release him. I mean, Mike Williams is so inconsistent. I think they find a way to restructure that deal. Because I think they need him. He was their most consistent receiver down the stretch by far. Mike Williams did not deliver. Josh Palmer was inconsistent. I think they need him. And this is a contending team. I think they want to try to find a way to bring him back. But yeah, I appreciate everyone who watched the show. There were a lot of you today. And next week we will be back with a show about wide receivers. If we get to the show sheet, we'll talk about wide receivers. I also want to talk about rookies today because we had some rookie experts. Because I am not that. And then tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on DLF's channel in here, the Tuesday night show will return. We can call it the Tyler Show. Because I'm not calling it SDLF anymore. We can call it the Tyler Show. We can call it whatever you want. 7:30 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. That show will be back, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, appreciate the audience. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you all later.